saying is that like
what's your
for
contradiction?
both,
If x is a square, then x is not a rectangle?
it's just you just contradict whatever's after the then for both the contrapositive and the contradiction. And I think the only difference is at the end of the problem, for the contradiction, you would then go ahead and make the statement, therefore, this, whatever you got, contradicts the original statement, and you would say the if. And that's just the only difference between the contrapositive and the contradiction.
See, I think the practiced one they actually gave us, if you look at the solution for that, I think it kind of shows the like what I'm talking about. I think it's like a contradiction with an if statement, and then you just only negate the then portion, and then you like assume the entire thing.
Yeah.
Trying to pull that up, but yeah, that's what I was talking about.
So just to be, so I wrote in the chat, if x is a square, then x is also a rectangle. What's the contradiction?
X is not a rectangle.
It's not a rectangle?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
say it's not a rectangle.
Just as a practice exam 1 solution, it says like, okay, so prove the contradiction that if 3n plus 5 is odd, then n is even. And then it says begin by assuming that 3n plus 5 is odd and n.
Okay. And we got any other questions about this one? Any other comments? I'm trying to be as annoying as possible. It's not working. All right, we're going to move on to question 8. All right, so for question 8, I'm going to fire, and then we'll go over whichever ones need to be gone over, okay? The answers are A alpha, true. Bravo, false. You know what? I can just type them in the chat. There you go. All right. True, false, true, true, true. False, false, true, true, true.
Cool.
True.
Everybody got those right?
I got F wrong. Why did I
Wait,
get F wrong?
can you repeat what you said again?
Yeah. I typed it in the chat, and also the answers
Cool.
are true, false, true, 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 false, false, true, true, true.
What which chat did you put it in?
Studying chat, the chat associated with this voice channel.
Ah.
Hey, if you hover your mouse over where it says studying, if you're on a desktop, there's a little dialog box. There you go.
All right. So, Tony, you got F Foxtrot wrong?
Yeah, so so the brackets with 2, how is that not a subset of the power set of A? Because the 2 with the brackets would be within the power set of A. Like it's one
A
of the
double bracket.
subsets.
It's an element. For it to be a subset, it would have to have another set of brackets.
Well, yeah, but
Tony, why don't you write out the power set of A?
okay. So it would be null 1, or I guess bracket 1, right? Bracket 1. It's gonna take a minute.
I got you. Bracket 2.
Oh, you're gonna do it. Okay. And then bracket 1, bracket 2, right?
Right.
Bracket 1, comma 2, bracket 1, comma bracket 1, bracket comma.
Unfortunately, I've lost us. All right.
Well, I think we all know the power set of A,
Right.
but one of which I just said was a bracket 2 bracket, which is one of the sets in the power set, which would be a subset of the power set, right?
So this. Wait. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but okay, hold on. Let me just write this out. All right, so if I'm just gonna shorten this, so we're gonna do. Okay, so that would basically be the start of writing out the power set, right? Like that would be the beginning.
That would be the beginning.
So that whatever this is one of the sets within the power set,
It,
right?
it, it is one of the sets within the power set. It is and that makes it an element of the power set. Remember, the power set is always a set of sets.
It's a set of sets.
Every
So
element
then,
set is a set.
yeah.
So
So you're telling me that within the power set, though you would consider those elements and not sets.
Yeah.
they're both.
They're both.
They are both.
It's an element of the power set, but it's a subset of the original set. Like each element of the power set is a subset of the original set.
So by transitive property would not also be a subset of the power set of A.
No. Like an
Gotcha.
element of a power set
So
is a subset of the original set.
you're kind of think of it as like peas in a can in a cupboard, right? Like, well, the cupboard contains the can, which contains the peas, right? So aren't the peas in the cupboard? And for peas in a cupboard, that works that way. For sets, it does not.
Yeah. Okay. That I don't agree with whoever invented this, but I will accept that I'm wrong.
We said a lot of things about sets and power sets.
So I said that each element of a power set is a subset of the original set. Yeah, so like each element of the power set is a subset of the original set.
Listen, I think it would be helpful to write out the power set here. So if someone write it out, and if you get it before I do, excellent.
All right, it's a race.
Hey.
Yeah.
I like how they're like trying to race type the power sets.
That might be wrong. Actually, I'm just gonna delete this out. I don't know if that was right. It's a lot of brackets.
Correct answer for question 5 was C. Charlie.
Who invented this?
Someone who doesn't like college students.
The Greeks.
The Greeks.
Yeah, discrete math was initially invented, but it was like some of the initial mathematical philosophy from Aristotle, Socrates, etc.
That's insane. That's actually really cool.
History of meaning power set.
No, let's
Yeah, but discrete math as a discipline is actually pretty recent. I think maybe like the mid 19 it was like in the middle of the 1900s. Yeah. It basically came about along the same time as computer science as a discipline.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Like, without getting political on Discord, I would like to congratulate. I think we- All right, I'm still typing power set.
Oh my god, so I'm stressed out about this. I do everything longhand and then I type it.
Same.
And so then my thing is like for this exam, like the copying all of my work into a digital document so that I can upload, like that's gonna be insane. Hell? It's kind of, yeah.
Well, they did say that there won't be anything that you have to type that you need the symbols for, right? Because we're typing it in
Yeah.
text editor.
So
So anything
just,
that they do make us type out as a proof is going to be doable in words. So if that helps,
yeah,
it
so
helps.
basically for when we're answering the questions, we're supposed to create a C++ file, comment out the entire C++ file, and then answer the questions in with regular typing. So they're not gonna. Well, theoretically, they shouldn't be asking us anything that requires us to create symbols that can be created directly from the keyboard.
Right.
Like you. Yeah. Like that kind of stuff. No, you don't have to. You're not gonna have to go and memorize like the frickin' Unicode for a
Yeah.
subset. Like for the subset of something. Hold on. Sorry.
Alt 0563 or something.
Oh my god, stop.
I just made that up. That isn't right.
Okay, good.
Section and
Yeah.
I used to know paragraph symbol. All right, well, I forgot it, but I use section symbol enough that I have memorized the Unicode for the Unicode number for section symbol, which is
And I use some stuff where like you don't have access to rich text, but you can still put in bullets if you use the Unicode symbol. It's
Steve,
149 maybe.
Daniel, go ahead.
how annoying are the proctors if you're like doing something?
Oh
Like-
god.
Proctors vary. Some are like normal people, and some are like don't pick your nose.
It's like, yeah, like I was trying to say from Ethan, like, let's say I try to open a new project, like for a different CPP file. Are they gonna like cry about it?
Listen, I think you should assume that your proctor will be unreasonable, right? Like they
Right.
probably will, but if you go in with the expectation that they are unreasonable, you'll have,
All
your
right.
expectations will be
I also feel like while they're setting up, if you explain like what the parameters are so that they understand, that might be helpful.
Listen, my professor said I can have 10 cheat sheets.
Yeah, right. For a second, right? Like everything you do will be recorded, right? And the proctor is not the final authority on what you can and can't do. So if the proctor says you only get an hour, just keep doing your exam for another hour. Proctor will make a note, hey, he worked past an hour, and then
Yeah.
he'll send that to Professor Day. He'll be like, yeah, I know, that's fine, right? And he'll roll his eyes, and nothing will happen, right? If the proctor says, if the proctor says something like, you're off the bed, like that's a little weird, but like just do it, right? If he says get your figurines off the bed, just do. I'm sitting on my bed. That's where I take the exam. Why I'm using.
So I have a quick question. Last time they didn't care. He tried to make me put my phone away before I needed to use it to do the push notification thing to sign in. Have you had problems with that in the past?
Yeah, listen, they did that to me too. They're like, put your phone away, and then I'm like, okay, and he's like, show me your ID, and I'm like, okay. He's like, I can't see it. Can you take a picture with your phone? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
got
he's
it. I'll
trying to get you.
phone. And then
I don't understand that. How is it easier for them to see after taking a picture of it and then showing the picture, and then it's gonna get pixelated?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I will tell you it worked though, because I'm looking at the picture myself, and like I couldn't focus on my ID, but it would focus on my phone. So
Oh, really? Interesting.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now just put a piece of tape over it, some scotch tape, done. Yeah, it just sucks. Sorry, I'm poor.
And the other thing to remember is that right. The other thing to remember is that some of the proctors, if you give them too much technical trouble, they're sort of trained to say like just reschedule the exam, and like we aren't to do that. We are like if they try to reschedule your exam, you are to like tell them to get in touch with either Ethan or Professor Day or someone,
Yeah.
and you should email all the TAs at once, or if you have to, and like say, hey, I'm having trouble with Proctor U, please do something, and so they will resolve your issues in real time, or hopefully, but
And I
listen,
assume they have their contact information, right?
yeah, and if they don't, you should give it to them. But listen, every test there are horror stories from people about like it took me 4 hours before I could even start the exam, and like so like there are always horror stories. And I remember Professor Tal telling us in winter that he like wished that NYU didn't make him use Proctor U because he hates it. So
There's gotta be a better system. Like, why the hell did they use Proctor U?
Yeah.
you know, maybe they got a deal from Proctor. Maybe Proctor used the lowest. I don't know.
Also, one random annoying thing is ever since the practice exam, I can't use my screen recorder anymore. So it's
Oh my
just like
god.
it just doesn't.
Yeah,
like,
they
work.
ruined my
It just-
computer.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
Listen,
I had to on the practice exam. I had to tell them to set everything back because I was like, I didn't keep track of what you changed. Can you change it back?
That's fine.
Yeah, listen. You can always like take your phone and record your screen and and just listen, adjust whatever settings you need to, and then I'll put my phone away. But I need to record what you do so I can undo it when you're done. Right? Like I don't. It seems to me that no proctor is going to tell you not to do that. Right?
It would make sense if they like verbally acknowledged what settings they were changing while they were doing it. Like you would think that would be a policy at the company.
How much do you think these proctors get paid? Right? Like, do you
Nothing.
you think they're like technical whizzes? Like they know how to do like 10 specific things.
Wait, I'm checking the Proctor U like resources we're allowed to use right now, and it says we're only allowed to use Gradescope. So how are we going to acquire the?
Look. Oh my god. I swear to God.
Did anybody not take the practice exam, the one that from the orientation class?
It's so
That's
good.
okay.
Did anybody not take it? That's what I want to know. Anybody has yet to use Proctor U? All right, everybody took it, so everybody should have some understanding of like what's going to happen, right? So I think Danny asked like what how are you going to use? How are you going to get the exam? The same way we did in the
Yeah, they're gonna put in the password, but like I'm just like nitpicking the ProctorU rules. Like technically, we can't go on NYU.com.
now you're thinking like a lawyer, right? Good job.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, just take a deep breath as you go into ProctorU world. Like, it will inevitably be stressful. Hopefully, you will not be one of the horror stories, but you might be, right? So, just. Somebody said like run ProctorU inside a virtual machine, but somebody else, if you do that, like ProctorU will probably check to see is it being run inside a virtual machine, and if it is, then
Yeah, it does.
So
They prohibit it. Yeah.
all right,
So they must have a way to tell that.
Scott tried it already, but like so.
No, I just didn't bother.
I had IDA VM running on my computer and they turned it off.
All right, so
they changed everything on my computer to black.
Yeah, I changed it back, so I'm kind
Completely
of
bricked. I just threw it out the window.
test.
yeah, I mean, you made
Yeah, I was going to say, think of it as refreshing.
I'm curious. Did anyone
Just a
do
quick-
question 12 on the winter exam? Like the coding question.
Can we do punishment first?
real quick. Let's finish about ProctorU. Any other questions or comments about ProctorU before we go back to the power set?
If I change my settings, will they I changed my settings since the last ProctorU. So like, will they change them again, or will they just be mad at me?
I'll change them again. They don't know that you've done anything before.
And fun fact, I just ran the ProctorU test equipment thing, and it said you failed the computer test. Your RAM usage is at 100% when the maximum is 95.
What? That's so dumb.
What kind of system do you have? Do you have a Mac?
Yeah, I have a MacBook.
Do you have an M1?
Not an M1, but I mean, honestly, I'll download it.
Dan.
Use that. So it's an Intel-based one. I mean, you should be fine because
Yeah.
so Macs specifically their memory management model is very different from a PC version. So you don't have to worry as much about like their RAM being used up all the time. Like that's the way it is with Macs most of the time.
Adam, why the fuck did they make you take this course?
I don't fucking know.
What? Like, what the fuck?
I don't know.
Wait, he just knows a lot. Like, he probably didn't have to take this course.
It's because my I don't have an academic background. That like my academic background is primarily in economics. So when I was applying, I guess they saw that and like, hey, you still need to take STEM related courses, even though
Or bridge.
Huh?
Or bridge.
Yeah, no, yeah. That I have to take I have to take bridge to show that I have some proficiency in STEM related topics. Yeah, despite the fact that like professionally I have about 10, 12 years experience in programming.
Yeah, everybody I know in cybersecurity, like as a professional, and I told them about this, like, oh yeah, you're not gonna need any of this shit, but
Yeah.
except the networking and some of the program stuff. But
It depends on what area of cybersecurity you want to be in. So
Yeah.
I eventually want to get to a point where I do application security engineering, and that does require a lot of fundamental understanding of lower level computational concepts because you're kind of like just exploring the crap out of a computer, out of a program, making sure that you can cover, basically all just make sure it's secure in all aspects.
yeah, like even like I know one friend of mine. She's a pen tester, and she's like an incident response manager. And she's like, I don't know any of that crap. I don't need it. So I guess it depends, Yeah.
If I could pull us back to the power set real quick, which is question 5. Question 6. It's not question 5. It's question
9. 9 is the next one. I think where we left off at.
The one you were stuck on was 8. It was
8.
like F or something.
So Tony, if you go back to my discussion, here, I'll just rewrite it. So here's my here's the power set, right? Did I get it wrong? Does everybody agree that this is the power set?
Does it have 16? It's 2 to the 4, so it should have 16.
All right. Right. It'll have 2 to the 4th element, so 1, 2, 3, 5, 6,
I think you're good.
11, 15. I missed because I only have 15.
Oh, that means there's just
2, 3. Maybe I didn't count the null set. 12, 13, 14. No, I count 15. I must have missed something.
I mean, for the purposes
that's the
of
answer.
section F, we just are concerned with 2.
So it's almost the power set. It's very close. Very close to the power set. So we want to. So where is you want to know whether the set of 2 is a subset of the power set of A, right?
Yes.
So the right the a subset means that every element in this set is, or every element in on the left is also an element on the right. So you see and when I say on the left and right, I mean right. So what are the elements inside the left side?
Or just 2.
And is 2 an element of the power set?
Yes.
the set 2 is an element of the power set.
Yeah, so the element is actually like the element is this, right? That's the element, not each individual element inside it. That whole line that I put in the code, like, that's an element, a single element, right? So we'll go back to the original question, which is on the left side of the posted 853, 2 is 2 an element of the power set.
2 is an element of the power set. Wait. Oh, no, it's not. It's not a element of the power set. But
So, go ahead.
the brackets mean that it is a set. Like if you put brackets around the 2, it is the set that it contains just 2, right?
Right.
So it's asking if this set that contains 2 is a subset of the power set of A, the power set of A, which has 2 with brackets around it as a set within the power set.
That's correct.
So, but I mean, I guess like I understand why it's wrong now. I mean, we kind of went over a little bit before, like it doesn't, like, just because the set of 2 is a set within the power set doesn't mean that the set of 2 is a subset of the power set of A. I guess I'll just have to just accept that that's true, even though I don't agree that that should be the case.
Which one don't you agree with? Which one don't you agree with?
F.
F. For question 8.
Yeah.
It's a subset because wait. So that is a subset?
It's not a subset, is what the answer is.
True or false?
Yeah, it's not a subset because you need another bracket around it. Why don't you agree with that?
I think what means he doesn't like it, not that it's.
Yeah, I just don't like that. That's that's the answer.
So
But I'll accept it and we can move on.
the Like Tony just wishes it was defined differently. So think of it like first level, right, as opposed to like all the way down levels, right? In the initial level of, if I think of the cabinet as like a cabinet full of jars, right? Like, are there, can I find any peas in the first level? Can I find any uncontained peas in the cabinet? Right? I can find peas in the jar, but can I find any peas outside the jar in the cabinet? That's what it's asking. So can you find 2 outside a set in the power set? And the answer is no.
Yeah, you outside that? All right, give me a second.
Well, there's lots of maybe I should put like a colon after each like element, so that you can differentiate between like the elements within a set and then the. So the point I'm making is that there are comments both within and outside brackets.
We can move on. I'll take it up with the ancient Greeks. So we can
All
go
right.
to question 9.
Did anybody have any other questions about 8? Reminder: the answers were true, false, true, true, false, false, true, true, true. We'll post that again. All right. Hearing none. All right. Question 9. Question 9. The answer was wrong. Wrong because I didn't include the answer. Whoops. But I believe it's 1-to-1, but not onto. Is that right?
What I got.
Can you explain? I struggle with this a little bit. I don't disagree. I just how do you prove that it's not onto?
You just don't like it.
So
You like
I
Tony.
feel like in the beginning these definitely gave me a lot of issues, but
Yeah.
I think like the one thing for me is that you have to look at the domain first for all these, and then like just think about if it's integers or if it's like natural numbers, et cetera, and like then like depending on the domain, obviously, then like I would choose numbers inputs from -2 to 2, okay, and then plug it in, and then the idea of 1-to-1 is that for every single x value, there is a unique y value that no other x can obtain, right? And then for onto, it's that all the y's within the entire domain are hit. They all have
Within the
like
entire.
an x to them.
But my question is like, what
within
part
the
of the domain is not mapping back?
So in this case, it's natural numbers, right? So it starts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And so if you start with 1, so for the n equals 1,
Got it.
x is 1, y is 2, right? And so you don't have an x where y is 1. So you've
Got
got
it.
a gap. So you just have to look for the cases where, yeah, you got to look for the cases where there's a gap.
Did you get better at finding the cases just through practice, like question after question after question?
Yeah,
I
you
had
just
the
gotta
same
get
problem with and I had the same problem with domains. Like on the practice test, I missed like half of them because I didn't pay close enough attention to the domains.
Okay, thank you.
The function questions, the examples you should use are -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And you'll probably find a pattern from those 7 examples. It's like most of the functions use numbers very close to 1, so or very close to 0. So just make sure you're. They usually don't use like rational and irrational numbers. They usually use integers or, in this case, natural numbers. So you usually don't have to think about what happens when it's 0.5, but just
Yeah.
play
Yeah,
around.
when it's
-3.
Don't forget about the signs too, right? They could throw in
Yeah.
like a plus sign, and that would like then that could change it.
So, right, this is a great point, right? Like, don't use -3 in question 9 because the -3 is not in the domain. So, Is this like when Zara says she did the homework for this week and it helped? Zara like really doesn't want us to know what she sounds like. She's not going to like say anything in the chat or in the
Don't pressure
that's
people. See.
her mic isn't working. Yeah, sure.
That's what I always used to say.
As
Don't pressure people.
Fix that before tomorrow.
I object. What do moderators do? Permaban. Zara, you're. Yeah, that's right. Ah, Zara, you thought I wasn't annoying. I'm gonna be as annoying as I'm gonna get better at being annoying. All right, question 10. All right, find the range of f. So the range of f is this, which I will just post in the chat. 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, and 0, 1, 1, which I think should be formatted like this.
I'm stressed about this because I feel like these questions were like so easy, and I feel like these are definitely the questions that are going to make harder.
I don't know that you can make I mean, I think they're trying to test like. So you could make this harder, right? You could be like, the if function like takes the.
They could ask us to find the target.
Yeah, right.
If they do a 5-number binary for a domain, that pisses me off.
Like, I think
It's like, oh yeah, let me write out 32 binary numbers now. Oh my god.
So like I don't know that they like want to make the math hard. Like they don't want you to do like long division, right? To like test your algebra. They want to test whether you understand the discrete math question. So they don't want you to get the question wrong because you forgot how to do long division from 4th grade, right? Like, so we don't know that like I think question 10 is a realistic question to like find on the exam, right?
Okay, good.
I don't think that, and I think question 7 is right. Like question 7 would probably ask you to do the whole proof, right? That, like,
I know, I don't want to do a whole proof.
you're probably,
Wait, I mean, like, we don't have to do a whole proof for this exam, at least, right?
We definitely don't have to do a whole proof in the exam. Like,
did they
no
announce?
way, 100%.
They announced that there will be no proofs on this exam.
I mean,
Wait,
there's
really?
not going to be a proof, but I think they said a lot that, like, we're not going to have to write things out. We're going to, like, it'd be a multiple choice, if anything.
All right, so then maybe you won't have a proof, right? But
I mean, hopefully it's just an odd or even proof, because those are simple.
the odd-
We're only allowed one piece of scratch paper, right?
you're allowed to have 2 front and back pieces of 8.5 by 11 scratch paper, and I don't even know that they said 8.5 by 11.
Let me see the margins.
Somebody,
That's
Yes.
true. I'm bringing some 11 by 17 and like.
Legal paper,
It's
Steve.
like, you know what, you can't use that. That's stupid.
That's
I was like, it doesn't say that.
didn't I see that
Cancelled.
appropriate?
It just says paper. You've been lawyered.
No. I do occasionally get lawyered, usually by other lawyers, but sometimes by other people. Good job. No, but I do believe I heard, maybe it was at office hours today, that Ethan said graph paper was fine, but I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere they said graph paper.
And no calculators, right?
Your IDE is a calculator, so no calculators.
Every
Oh,
time
Yeah,
I
IDE
need
is
to like
fair.
calculate
I
something,
didn't-
I gotta like comment everything out and do it.
Or
Well,
just see out it, and then before you submit it, take it out. That's what
Well-
I do.
Remember that? Cool. I don't know what you did or who you are because I missed whoever it was. But I approve. I kind of want that to be like my ringtone. People calling me. I don't know. I can't mimic the sound, but anyway, Tony, you can make a comment like that, like I did in the chat, real easy, right? Like you don't have to comment everything.
Yeah, I could do that. That is true.
Yeah, I just do the math in like code, and then then run it, and it gives me all like the answers. So, and they said that's fine. So that's probably what I'll do when I forget how to do 5 times 6 or something.
All
You
right.
ever just do 2 + 1 in a calculator?
One, I wouldn't think that, like, just because you can only turn in the 3 CPP files, you could create another CPP file to do scratch stuff in, I would think.
That's
I mean, you don't
correct.
even need to create anything. You just run the code, and then you delete the code
Right.
after you're done. Yeah.
Yeah. But if that like breaks you, like having to have that stuff and then pick it out of whatever you're doing in your
Right.
terminal or whatever to figure out where your
Right.
answer is. Yeah, you could totally do that.
Now,
Uh,
when I'm saving my CPP files and like going through my file explorer and stuff, like to submit and organize everything, are they gonna give me an issue that I'm going through my file explorer because there could potentially be like cheat sheets in there or something? I don't know if you got a comment like that from a proctor.
Listen,
I just put everything in a brand new folder, like on my desktop, so I don't even have to worry about it. Like I'm just going to
True.
one folder. So
That's what I did.
Tony, the answer is you should expect a difficult proctor, right? Like maybe you'll get a nice one, maybe you'll get a reasonable one, but maybe you won't, right? So maybe your proctor will like. I mean, listen, I don't know any of my passwords, right? So I can't log into NYU without logging into my password manager. So I told my proctor, I was like, listen, I got to log into this password manager. So do you mind? If he said no, I'd be like, all right, well, what do I do then, right? And we could sit and stare at each other, or at least I could stare at him. You know, right? Like, I don't know what's, like at some point,
Yeah.
at some point, I feel like they're gonna have to use something, right? But, like I just try to be polite. And when the guy says like, put your phone away, wait, I need you to come back and use your phone. Now put it away again. Wait, I need you to come back and use it a second time. Okay, now put it away a second time. The second time I said like, hey, are you gonna use it a third time? Because if so, I don't put it away yet. And he's like, oh, so.
He says that's -5.
Yeah, right. And remember, the proctor doesn't grade you either. All the proctor can do is write some note to Professor Day saying, this student did X, right? Like, if Professor Day cares, then you have a problem. If Professor Day doesn't care, which seems like a reasonable human being.
Also, isn't he in China right now? It says on his LinkedIn page that he teaches at the Shanghai campus.
Wait, NYU has a Shanghai campus?
Yeah,
Yep.
kind of. Yep. Camp
Yeah,
out.
Abu Dhabi, Shanghai, and New York.
Yeah.
Hey guys, just to reel us back in here,
No.
we want to go hit the coding questions.
Yeah.
Good for whoever got us back on track. All right, so
My question 11 is so jank.
for question 11, does somebody want to? I got it, or I ran out of time before I ended up making the complete triangle, but I got it. But I got the basic ideas. Does anybody want to go over? Anybody have no clue about 11? Right? Can you? Do you think you could create a? Do you think you could create a pyramid of asterisks, right, without worrying about the characters changing? Yeah.
Wait, so just increment it by do like plus equals 2 for your counter then.
Yeah, or multiplication and -1s are your friend, right? So instead of making it whatever your row number is or whatever, like instead of making it equal r for your loop, you do 2r -1 or something like that, right? Because that way you're doing twice the number of the row that you're on, but one less than that, since the middle column is always only one instead of
Ethan
2.
had such great advice in one of his office hours where if you need a counter that doesn't really interact with like other things, like it's specific, like hey, it needs to start at 1 and then it needs to go up by 2, and it doesn't really have a relationship with the other parts of your loop, you can just create a counter variable outside of the loop and then increment it by whatever you need. Like you start it at whatever you need and then you increment it inside the loop by whatever you need. So it doesn't need to establish any other relationship. It's just whatever you need it to do, it'll do it. Yeah. Yeah. So like yeah. Exactly. Like even if it starts funny, like if it needs to start at 1, like I would say, like let's say if you're doing a character, I'll like establish a variable called character limit outside of the loop. I'll set it to 1, and then I'll do like for the loop, I'll put like int character equals 0, then character less than character limit, and then inside the loop I'll just do like plus equals 2. So now it starts at 1, and then it hits 3, then it hits 5, and then so on. And like it doesn't have to have any relationship with any other portion of your loop.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
how
don't
I've
have-
been like approaching every pyramid or shape problem, and it's working. It's a little slower, like it'll take a few more lines if you like, because I just go from left to right. Like, oh, the first thing we need to output is a space, so I'll do a loop for spaces, and I'll set the limit to whatever it needs. Then a character, all right, character, second space, and I'll just do that until it's complete. And usually it works perfectly fine. It'll just take a bit of lines, but a lot less thinking, which is nice.
Does anybody want to like? I mean, does anybody sort of need to go over like step by step how to do 11? Would that be helpful to anybody or no? I have almost the code.
I have some gross code for it where it's like really.
I've
There we
got
go.
mine also.
How do we put that in here? Let's see here.
Does anyone have the code for question 12?
Hey, it worked.
It took me a while for 12, but I have it somewhere.
I did it.
Would you mind uploading that? Because I'm a bit stuck
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
This is I have
Thank you.
All right, so that's people's.
that's 12.
All right. So, Adam, do you want to sort of go over your general approach to 12?
Sure. So the general idea for this is that it's looking to what was 12 again? It was the one where you're counting how many inches a snail traveled, right?
Nails.
Yeah. So the first thing you have to get is the loop, and the second thing the first thing you have to do is when I usually approach a programming problem, the first thing I ask myself is, okay, what are the fundamental things that need to be solved here? And so for this question, there are two specific things. The first is constructing a loop that takes in a user input and breaks upon receiving a negative one. So I know I'm going to need a user input at the very least, so I create a variable named user input. And then for my loop, what I do is I create a while loop and I just set it to true. When you do this, if you look on where it says while true, this basically creates a loop that can't be broken because it's always evaluating to true. But since you do that, what you can do is on the inside of the loop, you can say if the user input is a specific number, or if it's a specific input, then you can break out of the loop manually. Just like our bond, Adam can't be okay. I mean, I literally broke out the loop, so I guess our bond probably can't be that strong. Okay, so the first part is just figuring out. The first part is figuring out how to construct this loop and then breaking out the loop, and then basically what I'm doing in this loop is every time someone enters a number that's not -1, it adds it to a variable called inches, and then after that I just convert the inches into feet and yards, and then that's it.
Did that help?
Yeah.
Yes, he was talking about 12.
Yeah, I think that makes a little more sense. Thank you.
Yeah, the best thing I would suggest when approaching programming problems, because one of the things I find that people often do is they try to solve the entire problem going into it, and really what you have to do is identify what are the parts of the problem and then what you need to do to solve those specific parts. So always start with small victories, right? So for this one, the first small victory I would do is just creating a while loop that asks for user input, right? Then after that, take the user input, display it. Then after that, try to find a way to break out of it. And then after that, figure out what else you need, right? And you know that you're going to need to calculate the total of all the numbers that are being entered in, right? And you're going to need to be able to keep track of the days. So you create a counter that keeps track of the days, and you create a variable that basically keeps a sum of all the user input that's going in, right? And then that's like the first part of the problem solved. And then the next part is just converting that. Right? So if you just separate the problem in a manner that makes sense and keeps the complexity of the program down, then generally speaking, solving the problem becomes easier.
Can you just explain? I guess like on the part. I guess like I knew how to do the whole problem. It's just like the math where you're kind of subtracting the stuff. That's the part that kind of just I couldn't conceptually, I guess, get it because I know like depending on what the user inputs, like stuff will kind of overlap, similar to like the homework 2 worked.
Okay.
Like we had to do like the days.
So you're talking about the part that falls when I do a condition where I say like if days are not equal to 0. Basically, this is just me. I probably should. Yeah, this is just me saying like if there's a check because somebody just put -1 as soon as they came in, right? Then there's nothing to solve. So they don't have to travel. So first I just do that check, and then once I completed that check, what I'm doing here where it says feet equals inches, divided by inches in feet, this is just converting inches into feet, right? And because this is an integer, right? I don't get a decimal, so I'm gonna get I'll get the whole number, which is what I'm looking for. And then the next one, what I'm doing here is I am subtracting. So I'm subtracting the number of inches by the number of feet I gathered. So what I'm doing here is so just to explain these two lines. I'm getting the number of feet from the inches, and then I'm subtracting that from the total of the inches, right? Because now that I already have that, I have to take that away from the amount of inches that are there. Does that make sense?
So
So if so, let's say you enter 23 inches, right? This would be calculated as feet is equal to 23 divided by 12. And how much is that?
it'd be a decimal, right? Or like it would be like it wouldn't be. It would be less than 2.
It'll be like it'll be 1, right? Because it'll cut off the decimal, and so you only get 1, right?
Are we not? I guess are we not supposed to account for like? I guess the part I was confusing because I was making them in floats because I wasn't sure if we were supposed to just like round down.
Yeah. Well, this is what this second line is for.
Yeah, you do if you leave them all as ints, you just do to get your number of feet, you divide by 12, and then you mod by 12, and that gives you the number of inches that are left.
Yeah, that would be another way that you can do it as well. You can use a mod.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way you
I
don't
see.
have to
Okay. Yeah. That's
you
what I
don't
was
have to
doing on
store
my
that.
Okay. This
Yeah.
makes more sense now.
Yeah. The main part of this is just like get the number of feet that you need, and then make sure to set the inches to what it should be after you've added those feet.
I see.
Yeah, and then I do the same thing for yards, and I don't do the yards first because for me to do yards, I have to get like the number of feet correct.
Mm-hmm.
See, I just set constants for 36 and 12. So that way I could do just yards, then feet, then inches.
Yeah.
So actually, all my calculations were just done in my C out. Like, just to make it
Yeah,
nice.
you just inline them in the C out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like doing it like this because if something happens, like let's say
Yeah.
like I
No,
get a
totally.
printout.
I would.
No, go ahead. What
I
are you gonna
would.
say?
I was just gonna say that like that's how my brain works is to do all the calculations and do the set variables for the things that I'm calculating and then see out the variables. But for this, it was faster to do it that way just because
Yeah.
I didn't want to type all that.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you for the great explanation. Appreciate that.
Yes. Yeah. Just to be like, breaks are really, really useful. You don't want to abuse them. Yeah, breaks apply to loops and switches or switch. Yeah, so any kind of loop, any loop. Yeah, when you a break in a loop basically means break out the loop. You can think of it as like an emergency thing. You don't want to use it too. Yeah, you don't want to use it too much. It makes sense here because I'm essentially creating an infinite loop, right? So what? Yeah, and I want to be able to break out of there immediately. So it's in cases like that where for reasons you create an infinite loop, or for like, let's say if you have a loop and in that loop you have an error check, right? And through the loop you see that error, you want to break out. You want to break out of it immediately because the error was spotted. Use it for situations like that. Generally speaking, you want to like for loops, you want to break out on the condition that you set for the loop. But break is used. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's what breaks are used for, and there's also continue. What continue? Yeah, so continues in what a continue does in a loop is, a continue says, okay, um, go to the next iteration of the loop immediately. So instead of running the rest of the code that's in a loop, if it hits a continue, it will stop what it's doing and it will go back and it will go to the next iteration of the loop. Yeah. So like let's say it's a for loop, right? And in the current iteration, like your index, whatever you're iterating is at 1, right? So it's going down, it's going down, it's going down. It hits continue, and let's say you have 4 other lines underneath continue that you want it to do. Instead of it running those 4 other lines, it'll just start at 2. Yeah, it'll restart it at 2. It basically short circuits it. Yeah, yeah. So in a for loop, you know how in a for loop, you know how for loop has in itself it has the initialization of the variable, right? The condition that you need to meet. Yeah, and then something to push it forward. So a continue in a for loop basically says, okay, screw everything else that's in this loop, just go to the next, like just push it forward one and start from the beginning. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you can use it in a while loop. It, what I would suggest is think less for while loops. Think less about wanting to push something forward, and more so there's some like it'll be a case of there's something that's happening at the beginning of the loop that you need to go back to. Um, that yeah, and to restart the process exactly. So you could think of it as something like let me see. Imagine if it was a website request, right? So you put in a request. You write some kind of function, and the function is like waiting to like read a HTML file, right? And so it's going through and it gets to the part where it's like, grab this HTML file. But the internet being the internet, It's not guaranteed that you're gonna get all the data from an HTML file as soon as possible. You don't want to break out of the loop because you know that eventually it'll come in. You still have to put in the request, right? So you don't want to break out of it, but at the same time, you don't want to continue with the rest of the loop because you don't have the file and you can't process it. So what you might want to do is say, okay, like continue with the loop, go back to the beginning, and then just keep on checking it, right? And as soon as you get the data, skip over the continue and finish with the rest of the function. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's not something that you use often now, but later on, once we start doing once we start working on more complicated data structures, they'll come into more like a bit more use. They posted the practice exam one. I believe they posted it on EdStem. Yeah, in the same thread that they posted the exam in, they updated it with answers for the exam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're looking for the answers for the winter 2021 exam, those are not posted. We just like I have my Gradescope results from when I took that exam back in 2021, but so basically the only answers you'll get is us going over it here.
Could someone just I guess I'm pretty good with most of the shapes except when we have to have one one star in the middle that kind of overlaps, right? Like similar to how the that flag problem we did, like Ethan gave out. Like conceptually, like or just verbally, like really make sure that like we have that one star like in the middle, right? Like because I sort of understand Ethan's code, but I also usually approach him like kind of different way. So we're just wondering if anyone like understands it or just like can verbally explain it. If not,
Example of the one star in the middle.
like I think it was the flag, or like my question today was on the it was like the bow tie one, the butterfly, right? I have to get that up. Hold on.
What fly? The butterfly? This is a butterfly one?
Yeah. Like I found it online. It was like a butterfly one, and but essentially it's the same type of idea. It's just like two triangles created together, or you can call it a bow tie, and it just has one star in the middle of it. I just for some reason cannot get it to like work. Like I just can't get it. I don't know why. It's crazy.
Like that?
Sorry?
Like this? I just posted in the chat.
Alright, let me see. Hold on. Yeah, like that.
So,
Adam, did you just code that like in 10 seconds?
No, I got it off. I got it off Google.
That's online, I think, right?
I'm gonna. All right, I was about to like quit Bridge and be like, all right, Adam won.
No. So here's the thing with these shapes. So when you're making a shape, how do you normally approach it when you're programming it? Like, what's your general approach to the problem?
The approach for all of them is to divide everything into separate triangles. So like on the first like if you take the current picture of the bow tie or whatever, the butterfly, and you split it in half horizontally, I would create one for loop for the first triangle on the left, the numbers, another one in the middle that would like half one in the middle for spaces, another half in the middle for the other spaces, and then another one for the triangle. So it'd be four loops at a time. I know that's like not efficient, but like that's how I would do it. And then the same thing for the bottom. It would also have 4 separate for loops, and they would just be like then they would just be kind of combined together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So I would say that is actually a really, really good strategy when if like you see a shape and you're like, I have no idea how to like fit this in one for loop. If you can just if it's easier to break it out into several for loops, then do that because that's actually going to be a lot more faster and a lot clearer than trying to do it in one for loop for a whole bunch of reasons. It's easier to break it up into separate parts than do it in one. So I would actually say like whenever you could do that, always stick with that. But for shapes like this, right? So in this case, I think you should print the first triangle up to 9, and then the second triangle will start from n-1. For this one here, so the problem with that Zara with this one is that because these triangles are side by side and not up and down, you actually have to print both of them at the same time. So you can't. There's no way to naturally separate it. So when I see shapes like this, the first thing that comes to my mind is I don't see a shape. What I see is a grid, right? Specifically, what I see, this is an 18 by 18 grid, right? I think this is 18 by 18, right? Well, 1, 2, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's a 17 by 17 grid, right? And that middle point is 9 is like 9 is like 9, 9, right? Or to put another way, it will be the length of the grid the length of the grid divided by 2 and the width of the grid divided by 2. So if we put these in for loops, what you can say is if like for that middle part, you can do something like if the row divided by 2 equals the grid divided equals the column divided by 2, right? Print out the triangle. Does that print out the star? Does that make sense? Because then what it's doing is as it's iterating through the rows and the columns, like you'll basically be able to know when you get to that midpoint. Yeah, so
I see.
I know it seems kind of weird. It's easy once we start doing stuff with arrays, like this kind of stuff it becomes easier to deal with. But let me. So this is kind of.
Yeah.
So this is like a code I wrote. It's just for like a simple. I was practicing some of the shapes. This was. Hold on. What am I doing? This is a mess.
I'll also paste mine so you can see if I did it.
Yeah.
If you're curious.
Right. So
It almost gets.
So if you notice what I do with my for loops, right? I name it rows and I name it columns. And it's programming what you name like naming things doesn't seem like a big deal, but honestly, naming is actually one of the bigger like things that you can do from a documentation or programming standpoint because it makes things a little bit easier just to imagine when you're working on it. Right? So for me, I view anything that I put in this outer row has to deal with the rows. With this outer loop has to deal with the rows, and anything that I do in this inner loop has to deal with a column. Right? So in this column, right, I have access to what row I might be on. So so for instance, if in this butterfly shape, we know that the middle part is where we want to put like the 9 or the star, right? We know that this middle part, or if a user puts in 9, right, is going to print out. That means that when the row is 9 is equal to 9, and the column is equal to 9, that's when we're going to want to print out our star. So we can put in a condition. So we can put in a condition in the middle in the for loop, for the column, the inner loop that basically says if row is equal to 9 and column is equal to 9, print out the star. Does it make a little bit more sense?
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And in a way, like if you think about it, you can basically like you can control wherever you want anything to be printed out in this for loop now, right? Because as long as you know what the value of the row is going to be and what the value of the column is going to be, you're able to you're able to target specific things. Now, granted, you can't just put like if it's equal to 9 all the time because the user can change it to like 7 or 5. But you can set it to like if row is equal to user input and column is equal to user input, then print it because you know that the middle part is always going to be equivalent to what the user put in.
Yeah. Okay, that I think I get. Yeah, that was a pretty good explanation thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had time to just like write out the code right now, but
I'll paste in my code so you guys can see it just out of curiosity. I mean, it's maybe it'll help someone else learn
no,
from it too. I don't know. It's aggressively long,
it's
so
aggressively wrong.
inefficient. It's aggressively long. It's just like so inefficient, but it gets the job done. So at the end of the day, it's fine. I mean, it sort of gets the job done here.
Yeah, listen, on the exam, just get something that spits out the right answer. Like, as long as it compiles and your output is correct, you should be fine.
May I interject really quick?
Yes.
So, all right. Like I wasn't talking because I was trying to do number 12, which I just finished. But the only issue with it is that for some reason, I'm not sure why. I'll share my code right after I test this one more time. Okay, it works. All right, I'm gonna put it in the chat. So for some weird logic reason that I don't feel like figuring out, it'll do all the calculations right, but it'll like the inches at the end will be 1 short. So I just added a 1. Do you think they'll say anything like about that if like isn't like I'm technically like my variable that's supposed to count the inches is like off by 1 and I'm just adding a 1 in my cout statement at the end? Do you think they'll still take off points for that? Or
I personally wouldn't take off points because that's a really smart way to fix your error. I'm not sure what what the TAs and the professor would do. You know, I don't know
any
what it is that they're actually grading on, to be honest.
do you Steve, from your experience, do you think they would dock anything for that or no?
I am not the final authority, but what does Gradescope say? So like, all right, my Gradescope has like really detailed stuff for question 11, but not for question 12. So like, it doesn't really like just that it did not define constants for inches per foot and inches per yard. So that's like what I got wrong. But yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I
I
don't know.
forgot they want us to do that's so annoying. I didn't do that here.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know. I mean, it works. So it's just like I just have to add a +1 for some reason. I'm not sure why exactly.
Then, is it because you started user input at 1 or no? Because
Nah, because the while loop, like once the while loop starts, you're replacing user input anyway.
user input. What does inch tracker start at? Inch tracker starts at 0.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. I mean, if they are not going to take any points off, I guess it doesn't really matter because I got the solution anyway. But it's just, I don't know, found that strange that it's like 1 off on the inches. Because I'm pretty sure that should be right. Like if I add the amount of feet, I add like in the amount of inches divided by 12, and then I just do the mod of the inch tracker by 12, and that would give me whatever remainder of inches there are, and I just put that back into inch tracker. So it should work. I don't know.
I mean, with the you know, when you have one of those off by 1 errors, usually there's something about the. I feel like there's always something about like a greater than or less than should be a greater than or equal to, or you've started a variable at 1 instead of, you know what I mean? Like, so. I'm
I don't know.
like brain dead for the evening, so I can't quite diagnose your code problem.
That's all good. I was just curious if anyone had an opinion on that. If they'll like take off any points, whatever did. Honestly, like if I got the answer, they probably won't take off enough points for me to care.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it would be much. They would probably comment on it and be a minus a couple points or whatever, or a point or whatever those little ones were, kind of like they did with the setting the constants and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions, or anybody who just joined is like, oh, I should like. All right, Zara has a question. Zara, I permabanned you. You're not allowed to ask
I
any
don't
questions.
know. Is my mic working now or?
Oh, it does work now.
It's working.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You need to
But
submit
yeah,
a request to be unpermabanned in duplicate.
yeah. Hopefully you can unban me now. But quick question. So, do they take points off if it only works for like a specific output and it doesn't work for anything else, or?
Yes.
I lost 6 points on my homework question for that.
Yes.
I am gonna like
all
then like
that
code
are
something that only works for one situation and doesn't work for anything.
your program should work for all contemplated inputs. So if they tell you like enter an integer and their examples only use positive integers, then your program better work for negative integers, right? Like, and you have to think about.
Right.
But it
Hopefully
does.
they can like be nice and give just some partial credit because I know I'm gonna be like tearing my hair out by the end of the exam tomorrow.
You will get
Yeah,
partial
you
credit
will.
if your program
Yeah,
kind
so
of.
that one that we did with rounding, the first time I uploaded it without the being able to handle negatives, and that's what they ended up creating for some reason, even though I had already replaced it. So when they re-rated it was fine, but it wasn't. So they subtracted points, saying it doesn't. It, basically they have a set of whatever it is, 5 or 6 or 10 test cases that they use, and they'll say, "Oh, it didn't work for this number and this number," and you'll get points for each test case that you fail.
Pretty much how it worked.
I'm just gonna give it up to God at this point. It is what it is.
Hi. Steve, I remember that you give up to download the VS Code. You are using Visual Studio now. How it feels? Is it much easier to download and set it up to have all those like stuff to write code?
Oh, you're bringing my PTSD back. I would not say it was. I mean,
Is it easier?
Working, so.
Oh yeah. Alright, so you are using Visual Studio. You downloaded yesterday? Oh my god.
Appreciate
Yeah, I've only used
Good luck on
Visual
the exam
Studio,
tomorrow,
so I don't
right?
know.
What? You're using VS Code. Is there any?
See, that's why I'm happy I have a PC. I've been using Visual Studio from the beginning, and it just works.
Yeah, there's not like a lot of extra stuff to do.
You don't have many people that just work.
I have Windows. I just have Windows, and
Yes,
Visual Studio's
Windows.
been fine. I haven't had any issues.
I use I use it on both. It just so what was the issue that you were having with VS Code?
On VS Code, I have VS Code. Let me for the terminal, I think I have G++. I add the bin file to the path.
Mm-hmm.
I just I had to be honest, I've been using online IDE for all the homeworks. And it's just so easy because they help you to, I don't know how to say that, it's a debug. They help you debug and tell you where it's run, and you just revise it online. Like
Yeah,
every
that's what I
single
use.
detail.
That's why I like Visual Studio. I mean, like the debugger's pretty good, and like as soon as you make a mistake, it shows you what line you've done it on. So
Yeah, I
pretty
need
easy to
that.
go back. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Visual Studio
Visual
was the first one I picked out, so I didn't like try anything else. But so far, it's been like pretty good. The only annoying thing is that like if I'm in one, and I'm assuming there's probably some way to change it, but like you said, if it's one project, I have to like remove the source file from the project in order to like make a new one because it can't run two CPP files at the same time.
Uh-oh.
can't run two CPP files. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got it.
The requirement that requirement that they asked for is I don't quite understand it. So in Visual Studio, the way Visual Studio works in terms of it's setting up its CPP files for compilation is that you create a solution, and then within the solution you create projects, right? So the solution is kind of like the folder, and the projects are or the solution is kind of like uh um a file cabinet, and the projects would be the folders in the file cabinet, right? And your CPP files would be the files that are in the folder. So normally for this kind of, if you're trying to set up separate programs on Visual Studio, what you would do is you would create your solutions file. You know how in that startup screen where it's like, what do you want to use? Like blank C++, et cetera, et cetera. What you would do is select blank solution, right? And then in the side, the solutions explorer, right, you have the name of your solution that shows up. You right click it, and then you would select like something like add, like add project or add item, right? And then in add item, you would select blank C++ file, a blank C++ project, and then in there you will create your C++ file. That's the way I've been doing it whenever I use Visual Studio. But if I'm understanding what they wrote in the requirements, is saying you can only use one project, and that's problematic because in Visual Studio, if you have multiple C++ files in the same project, it builds both files. And by itself, that's like how it should normally run. But since they're two separate programs and they both run main function, it will always run into an error because you can't have multiple main functions in the same program. So that's why you have to create multiple projects. They have to know this because they've programmed before and they've been running this class for the past couple of years. This isn't
The fix is pretty. What I do with that, because even the homeworks, just because whenever you create a new project, it eats up a good chunk of file space. Like I'm just looking at my bridge folder, and it's up to like, hold on, let me see. I'm up to like 2.3 gigs just because of the yeah, because every time like you create a project, like like if you look at if you go through your Windows Explorer and then you pick one that you did, and you look at the whole folder. Like let me look at mine. It's only got two C++. Oh, this one's
Yeah,
like
I think. Mhm.
like my homework one. It's like 400 megabyte, right? And like when you look at it, your CPP file is only like 1 kilobyte.
Yeah.
So what I do is I create a project like when I do my homework. So the new project is homework 4 or whatever, right? And then I add the source file, netid question 1. I do the entire thing, and when I'm done and I'm sure my code works and I've got it down, save it, and then I remove it from the project. And then, I add a new project, and now that's number 2. Because everything
Yeah.
still stays in a folder, because even if you remove it, unless you hit delete, like, it all stays there. So then, I just upload all the CPP files from there. But that keeps me from having to keep creating a new project every time. So I was just gonna do the same thing on the exam.
Right. I think it
Which
happens like
it's annoying, but
it's
it's
fine. It's fine. It's online, like online IDE. There's like a min.cpp file, and you can open another sheet for the CPP file, but you run it. You could only run the first one. So no matter what you write on the second page, it does not work. So you have to move everything on the first min.cpp, and that's how it runs on the online IDE.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me see. So I have this. So I think I have a VS Code here. So I just I just don't know how to get it to work. I have all those files, and I set the path compiler like what should I do, like command prompt. So it says like how to find if I have the G++. I think I have G++ file.
Did you install a compiler?
I think I did, but how to know I have the compiler or not?
Because you'd go to like, hold on, like, because I had to go through here.
Space dash dash. What is dash dash? Oh yeah, version. I do. Let me see. Yes, I have it.
No.
It said like you can see it. It said G++ and blah 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 blah. I do have it. I can show you. It's where is it? Okay, it's like MSY64, and I have all those clan are empty. These are empty because I'm Windows. Clans for Mac, I think. So I have min GW64.
Yeah, that's the same one I have.
And a G++, and what else should I have? To the path? Mean no. What is that? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I had to do something like that.
You remember? This is headed.
Oh God.
Press Y. Okay. Launch that thing. You've been through this?
Oh, that's not good.
Thank you. I mean, this is not the first time I download this. Okay. Mm. Now you can restart all the process. Why? Steve's PTSD. It's still not working for you? Oh yeah, so you have the purple one. Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go back to studying. You guys have a good night and good luck tomorrow.
Same to you, man.
See you. Good luck.
Right. Well,
I
it'll
heard.
tomorrow too. But good night.
Bye.
Night.
I heard from people. No, on the Slack they said, can they use inbuilt debugger? Like yeah, like the debug built in the.
I mean, I remember when I didn't even have to like install an IDE. I would just download the compiler, use Vim, and then I'm good to go. Oh, okay, that makes sense. With Java, you definitely need something like NetBeans or Eclipse because Java is just an absolute monster of a language if you try to use the compiler and the text editor.
I share you guys the Discord. You can see Discord.
Yeah. Also, just want to know you can download it, but in reality, the desktop version of Discord is literally just a web browser. It's just a separate instance of the Chrome web browser. That's all it is.
Checking disk space. Oh my goodness. Does that mean I don't have enough space?
I feel lied to. I feel like betrayed.
By what?
By what you just told me. Not by you, but like
Steve,
Chrome.
that's the thing now. Like, I guarantee you, the majority of programs that you run today on your phone, on your computer, the ones that are desktop native, they're literally just Chrome instances with a program installed.
Ugh. My life is a.
So you guys you remember what we learned about discrete math for last 5 weeks? I feel like I forgot.
I remember, but then as soon as I sit down for the test, I forget.
Oh my
I panic and I forget.
I think
Look,
tonight
Steve.
is another, sleepless night.
Look, Steve, I posted. Steve, I sent you. Steve, I sent you a link to the framework that they use now for this. So Slack is also the same thing, by the way, just so you know.
Slack the same thing for what?
You can build a desktop app. I hate them.
I didn't.
Wait, who
I didn't.
used C-Line
I went
here?
to bed. I went to
Everyone
bed
kept
like
saying C-Line is easier.
easier.
Sea Lion?
Yeah.
You do Mud, Mud, what's your actual can I just call you Mud, or do you have a preferable
Another mod.
you have a real name? Is this, what you said? Oh, Justin. So you actually might have, well, the issue with Sea Lion is that they don't want us to take it on the exam. I don't know why, but you might have actually liked Sea Lion because it's made by the same company that made JetBeans. Yeah.
They just
No,
don't
I-
want to make anything easy for us.
I'm here.
I
I'm here.
don't understand why.
So I turn off this. Okay. Do that thing again. Okay, another comment. Chat. Mm-hmm.
What?
Is this
This is
what
when you
happened
need Proctor use software,
before?
then like Justin could just take control of Amy's computer.
Just control it. Hundred times. Okay, let me take a picture of that. Goodness. Who is going to stay overnight tonight? We can set up. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I sleep at 7 morning.
I'm just gonna stay in the crying room
I
tonight.
sleep last night. Oh, sorry, where are you?
I've been saying Zybooks, Steve.
I've been saying ZY.
You are like resident math historian. I feel like you need to tell us. We need a definitive.
I looked up the definition for one word. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. This
Pac-Man.
that does not make me an historian.
Adam, you're the expert. We need.
I missed the space after S. After capital S. Yeah, I think I did. I can't. I'm sure it happened to you. I'm not the only one. I can't. Now I feel like you guys are protocol tutor on the other side of computer. Looking at me doing my test or exam. See this?
Byte of memory is it's probably just like a few transistors, to be honest. Or like to be even more like super, discrete math with it. You can build the calculator out of like something like a dominoes or cogs.
Oh my goodness. You're scaring me. Restart? I don't know. Yes.
As long as the path is set up, she should be fine. She can also test it by opening up a new terminal and then typing in like G++ or playing.
To open a terminal.
Yeah, the command prompt. And then yeah, G++ should.
Stash version?
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah. All right. So G. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not recognized. This is what happened to
I
me.
think you meant GDB. Yeah. All right. So it looks like she's good.
Oh my goodness!
Now she just has to. Now she has to set up Visual Studio so the Visual Studio Code's configuration files so that when she runs the compilation task on Visual Studio, it does it properly. No. So Visual Studio has its own separate configuration files that needs to be made now. Yeah. So Amy, so on the left hand side, do you see the icon with the bug?
Yes.
Yeah, not that. Underneath that, there's that where it says extensions. Underneath the bug icon.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
click on that. Hold on, I
think I
just
have
need
it.
to.
I have some.
Yeah, just type in. Okay, so on the bottom where it says C++, where it's, so click on that. Click on not uninstall.
Install. Yeah.
Click on the little gear icon.
Here icon is.
Yeah.
Oh, this one. Yes, gear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is this? Oh, go back to the left hand side with the extensions.
Install.
No. Go back to the same. Click on that. Go back to where it says C++. Right. Scroll over